Hello! These are the hardest platinum trophies I have. These aren't the hardest platinums of all time, just the hardest platinums that I have, in my opinion. If you have these as well, mad respect, and let me know if you found them as difficult as I did. The first game I'm talking about today is Furi. This game is very fun. I thoroughly enjoyed playing it through casually, but the platinum was a brutal experience. This game is basically a boss rush of 10 quite difficult bosses. The trophy guide rates this game an 8 out of 10 in terms of difficulty, and I definitely agree. This game at minimum takes about 3 playthroughs to complete, but I ended up doing at least 5 or 6. It's not a particularly long game, but some of the bosses are tough and you may get stuck for a minute as you figure out their attack patterns. First, you have to beat the game on Furi difficulty, which is a moderate challenge on its own, and I struggled on certain bosses my first time with the game. Then there are the speedrun trophies, which are quite achievable if you've had some practice, but still require some skill. After that, you'll be going for the S rank on Furi difficulty, which is quite difficult on its own, but if you focus up and lock in, you will be able to do it. Some of the requirements for S rank are getting knocked down less than 10 times throughout the entire game and not getting hit more than 400 times, which does sound achievable but is harder than it seems. After all this, you still have the 2 hardest trophies to get, which are completing the game on Furia difficulty and getting S rank on Furia difficulty. This trophy almost broke me, but I persevered. I don't even know how to describe how difficult this is, but it is definitely tough and requires a lot of practice. The saving grace of this trophy is the practice mode from the main menu, which saved me a lot of time. The platinum rarity according to PSN profiles is ultra rare, with only 1.76% of players getting this platinum, which is not surprising because this game is hard. Big props if you have this one, I really struggled with it. The next game I'm talking about is Rogue Legacy. I played this game in 2015 and thought it was fun, but after beating the main story, I stopped playing. I picked it back up 7 years later and got the platinum. It is hard. The main story and New Game Plus aren't too bad. The game has a progressive upgrading system, so the more you play and the more you die means you can spend coins you earn to get more upgrades and health. The big difficulty comes in when you have to beat the remix bosses, which are amped up versions of the normal bosses. You have to fight them using pre-made characters with determined stats, so if you're relying on your extremely high upgraded stats, you are screwed. The redeeming part about these bosses is you can fight them over and over, and when you die, you can restart immediately without running all the way back as you'll normally have to when fighting the regular bosses. I struggled on one of these bosses in particular for such a long time, and I don't know why. I think I did the same fight for about 2 hours and barely came out on top. But after all this is where the real challenge comes in. Thanatophobia, I don't know if I said that right, requires you to beat the game dying less than 15 times, which is a lot harder than it seems. I put days into trying to get this trophy. It's such a hard balance of trying to get as much money as possible and defeat as many bosses before you inevitably die so you can spend your money on necessary upgrades. The last boss is extremely tough when you're not upgraded enough, and a couple of hits will ruin your attempt for this trophy. Each attempt can take an hour or 2, and I was very glad when I finally finished this game. Next is a game that I struggled with that I feel like others didn't. The Crash Bandicoot Remake legitimately destroyed my will to play games for a while. I actually stopped playing for a month or 2 because this game was so frustrating. The time relics for speedrunning levels is what did me in. I just got stuck on 2 specific levels for so long, and I thought no amount of practice could help me overcome them. Sunset Vista destroyed my sanity and is such a long, grueling level. I know others struggled with this level too, but man, I struggled. My problem was I was trying to brute force it. I was just attempting the speedrun over and over again, and I wasn't getting anywhere. It wasn't until I stopped worrying about the speedrun and just practiced beating the level until I actually got better that I finally completed it. The other level I got stuck on is Road to Nowhere. This bridge sucks, these hogs suck, and these turtles can get I definitely got stuck on this game for a while, and for me it was one of my hardest platinums, even if the platinum rarity doesn't reflect this. Just Cause 3 is next on the list, and only really on here because of one sort of glitched challenge. There's a lot to do in this game, but the platinum is more time consuming than hard. I think most of the time I just got distracted because you can do some funny stuff in this game. There's one challenge that's glitched however and doesn't work properly, and is the only real difficulty spike in the game. It's more luck than difficulty really. Look, I've just wanted to complain about this mission since it screwed me over, okay? That's why it's on the list. Laguna Blast sucks and it doesn't work properly. Screw this mission. Another platinum I have that is difficult is from Tricky Towers. This game is like Tetris with gravity. It came out on PlayStation Plus and was a fun little game to play with friends. I quickly became the Tricky Towers champion among my friend group and knew I had to get that platinum. This game sparked the flame that was my love for Tetris, and Tetris skills are a big help when getting this platinum. There's 50 challenges called trials in this game and are sorta like Tetris puzzles, but they're really trying to screw you over with negative things happening to your build. Some of these challenges are painful and will try to destroy your spirit, but with patience and a lot of skill, they are possible. I really struggled with the trophy Ultimate Wizard, which requires you to beat the 50th challenge without losing a heart. Beating the 50th challenge is quite tough by itself, but not losing a heart makes it even harder. I think the only reason I got this is because I didn't have internet for a couple of weeks and had nothing else to do, besides attempt this trophy over and over again. I think I ended up just getting lucky and RNG was on my side for once. I really don't recommend attempting this platinum unless you are quite skilled at Tetris or you're in for a bad time. If you have this one, good job. Kingdom Come Deliverance was a game I struggled to get into. The platinum was kind of a tedious journey as well. I really did not understand the combat and what the game wanted me to do when I first started playing. But when I figured out the combat was more about stats and levels than your actual skill, I felt like I understood what to do. I had to do 2 playthroughs of this game. The first one was a lot of fun and I really took my time. I did have to do certain missions at certain points or they would have become unobtainable later, but keeping an eye on those specific missions aside, it was a straightforward playthrough. The second playthrough, however, was a bit more difficult and stressful. There are trophies for beating the game without killing anyone and beating the game a virgin, without getting freaky. Not killing anyone especially is a massive pain. When I did this, I did not work on my combat skills at all and it really came back to haunt me. The one boss you have to kill in the story kicked my ass for literal hours. When I got into the fight, I already had low health and all my combat skills were basically non-existent. The very few fights I did do, I scraped by, and the final mission is horrible when you can't kill anyone. Even thinking back to when I was trying to get this is traumatic. I don't think this would have been nearly as bad if I wasn't rushing my second playthrough, but I just wanted to be done with the game at this point. I was speeding through the game and skipping as much as possible and it was not worth it in the end. And I don't think I saved any time at all. If you have patience, this one is achievable and is pretty fun if you get into it. If not, you're in for a bad time. The Long Dark is a very special game to me and a very time-consuming platinum. I spent weeks, maybe even months trying to get these trophies, and it really made me fall in love with the game. In The Long Dark, you have to survive the Canadian wilderness, which is easier said than done. Although there are wolves, bears and angry moose trying to kill you, your biggest threat is the weather and your poor navigation skills. It's so easy to get lost while playing this game, even if you've played it for hundreds of hours, like I have. The best way I can describe this game is a slow burn. Everything takes so much time. Getting from A to B is tough because you move so slow. This game is definitely not for everyone, but I really enjoyed it. That being said, there are some trophies that tested my patience. The 4 rarest trophies on the trophy list are no joke. The first is called The Will to Live, which requires you to survive 500 days. Surviving by itself is tough, but 500 days is a long time. And if you mess up and die once, you have to start all over again, as this game has permadeath. Faithful Cartographer is the next demanding trophy, which tasks you to find and map all named locations in the game. There are hundreds of these spread ridiculously far apart, and just to remind you, you walk extremely slow. Skilled Survivor is another hard trophy. For this one you have to get all your skills to level 5, and this one takes a long time. The final, and I'd say the hardest trophy, is Challenge Mastery, which requires you to complete all the challenges from the base game. Some of these challenges are easy and some are really tough. I think overall this game is more time consuming than hard, but the fact that one little slip up can ruin hours and hours of progress validates this game's placing on the list. I had so many close calls where I almost died 100 days in, and if I did, I probably would have given up on this platinum. I love this game, but it's not for the faint of heart. Attempt this one if you want, but you might just end up making that platinum trophy rarer than it already is. We're at the last game on the list, but before that I have some special mentions that I thought were hard, but not my hardest. Final Fantasy X is a great and extremely long game, but the last boss, Penance, kicked my ass repeatedly for a long time. Stardew Valley and that stupid minigame, Journey of the Prairie King, held me back from completing the game for a long time, and Hollow Knight and the Pantheons are extremely tough. There's basically no way to do it without cheesing it unless you're an absolute beast, but I could not beat Radiance. The last game on the list and the hardest platinum trophy I have by far is from Tetris Effect. This game requires so much skill. I thought I was good at Tetris before playing this game. I was not. I was not good at Tetris. I was dog shit. I can say after completing it though, I am now decent at the game. Getting SS rank everywhere is a crazy ask and it had me stuck for a long time. The 1 minute and 10 second SS rank requirement for sprint is what took me the longest. I just needed to learn to place the pieces accurately faster, which seems simple but really isn't. This game was my COVID hobby and I was putting in 8+ hours a day practice for weeks and it still wasn't enough. For anyone who actually plays Tetris, I'm sure you're thinking, 1 minute and 10 seconds isn't that bad. And I agree, it's not. But in this version of the game, every time you clear a line or get a Tetris, there's a delay where you can't do anything for about a second, or just under a second, and it makes it harder than it seems. On PC, when Tetris Friends was around, my best time for a sprint was around 55 seconds. I could not believe how hard it was to get that time down on Tetris Effect. I did eventually get the time requirement and complete this, but it took an ungodly amount of time. The only other trophy I didn't have at this point was to rotate pieces 1 million times, and I'm gonna put you on. If you go into Endless Relax Marathon, you can just continuously spam rotate and not have to worry about resetting when you fail. Furthermore, you can set multiple buttons to rotate, so I set all my face buttons on the controller to rotate and just spammed all 4 buttons over and over again until I got it. It still took an extremely long time, but it cut down the completion time exponentially. If you're one of the other 382 people who have this platinum, you're a beast. Good job, and let me know if it was as hard for you as it was for me. Anyway, that's the end of the list. If you have any of these as well, let me know, man. Let me know. I'm really enjoying making these platinum trophy discussion videos, so I might keep doing it for a little while. I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe, like the video and all that. Check out my other channel, and really, thanks for watching my video. Goodbye and have a good day.